You've been in your HR role for a few years and you're wondering what's supposed to come next. I completely understand. I've been there several times before. Navigating my career from an unpaid HR intern to HR department of one, all the way up through executive leadership, there have been several times where I've wondered what's supposed to come next. So I understand exactly where you are and I know how stressful that feeling is as well. What you're feeling is 100% normal. You are feeling the right things. Also, it's important to understand that if you're feeling these things, it's that you are caring about your career and you're serious about what's going to come next. But you also realize that what got you here is not going to get you there. So the education that got you there, your working relationships that got you there, your level of expertise and what you know and how you do your role, that's all fine for where you are right now. But how can you get to that very next point? That's what we're going to talk about today. If you're serious about getting your very next promotion as an HR department of one or as an HR professional, this video is for you. We're talking about ways to go from an HR employee to an HR leader and the mindset shifts that you need to take in order to get there. If you're new here, I'm Brittany. I am passionate about helping HR department of one professionals and HR leaders to get to that very next level. My goal is for you to avoid the chaos that I know can be your day-to-day work and also to move into being more proactive and more in control of the things that you do every day. On this channel, I talk a lot about ways to optimize your department, to add value to your organization, but ultimately to grow your own career and all the things that go along with that. If that sounds like you're in the right place. Make sure you are connected wherever you're watching this video and tune in for more videos just like this. Before we get too into the content, if you are really serious about moving on to the very next level, you should have my free HR career guide, the 5 vital strategies that you need to make sure you are keeping in mind when you're building your career to the very next level. So click down below to get that free download and then come right back to finish this video. A big mistake I see a lot of HR professionals making, HR leaders in all arenas, is that you sometimes wait until you get there. So sometimes you say, well, that's above my pay grade, or, I don't get paid to do this and all these things. But you have to understand that thinking this way is going to keep you stuck. Thinking this way is going to keep you limited. If you wait until you get there, you're taking it for granted so many things. How do you know you're going to ever get that opportunity if you're not doing what it takes to get there first? Now, understand there's a balance. You don't want to work yourself overextended and then not be fairly compensated for the work that you do. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that before you even get to that point where you're asking for more money, before you get to that point where you're expecting another promotion, what are you doing that's making you ready for that position? So we're going to be talking today about some different mindset shifts and some questions you can ask yourself to get you closer and closer to that very next role that you desire. In my career, one of the things that's helped me the most is being super aware of where I am right now. So when I started my career under the leadership of another HR manager, I was comfortable. I had a crutch. I had someone that was there that's going to help me to get everything I need to get done. She could back me up all the time. And I got really, really comfortable. So when I became an HR department of one, unexpectedly, I felt abandoned. I felt stranded. I felt like I was set up to fail. If you're in HR department of one right now, you understand what that feels like. You're on an island by yourself. There's no one else that can back you up. You're doing all the things and you're required to know so many things. And it feels like it's just enough to send you crazy. When I was in that space, I had to realize I only know what I know and I don't know what I don't know. So I had to figure out a way to become more mindful and painfully self-aware of my own limitations, because that's the only way I could close those gaps. Today, I want to propose to you 7 different prompts that you can start to journal about, to start writing some things down, to keep yourself super aware of what you are experiencing, how you're feeling, and where you are. That's going to help you get close to that very next goal. The best advice I've ever heard when it comes to how to get your very next promotion is to excel where you are right now. If you're already barely making it, if you're barely staying afloat with your daily tasks right now, how can you expect to achieve more? A lot of times when we're drowning in our work is because we're working too quickly or we're not slowing down enough to really reflect on what's happening around us. So today we're going to be talking about these 7 prompts to ask yourself and to journal about these things to help you to become more mindful. First thing you should journal about your successes. So often when we're in our roles, we get so down on ourselves. We are our own worst critic, and we have to realize we have to take a step back and say, hey, what went well today? What made me smile? What did I do really well that surprised me? When you start writing these things down, it's going to give you confidence. It's confidence that you probably didn't even realize that you had. Taking time to reflect on these victories, big and small, is going to be so impactful for not only your ability to get things done the next time, but just your confidence moving from day to day. You don't want to wait until you get so bogged down where you're stressed to the max and you need a full week off to recharge your batteries to start journaling about your successes. No, these things should be done in the middle of all the things you're doing. So at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, in the middle of the day, you decide what works best for you, but you've got to find spaces to reflect on what you do well. As an HR department of one, who I primarily serve, you cannot wait for people to tell you that you're doing a good job. You have to know yourself when you're doing a great job. And so that's why I think it's so important to be intentional with everything that you do, because when you're working alone, you cannot wait for a pat on the back, because it's never going to come. There's no one to give it to you. So again, when you're working as an HR professional, you've got to make sure you know what success looks like so that you know when you achieve it. Just as important as reviewing your successes, you need to also review what challenged you that day. So think about, okay, so what challenges did you face that you really didn't know how to handle them? Did you overcome them? Did you not overcome them? Are they still in process? Again, slowing down to think about these things will be so impactful, because it'll help you to really be your own supervisor. So I talk often about leading yourself first. So if you're an HR department of one, or if you're in any HR role and you want to one day either lead a team or have someone to work with you that you one day supervise, you've got to understand that how can you lead somebody else if you can't lead yourself? So leading yourself means leading yourself through your successes, leading yourself through your failures, leading yourself through those moments where you just don't know the answer and you're not sure what's going to come next. If you can't lead yourself and give yourself grace, it's going to be really, really difficult to do that for someone else. So all of these prompts are going to be helpful for you to make sure that you are keeping things mindful, not only for your success today, but also for your future as you grow your department and you grow your impact in your organization. Next, think about moments of connection throughout your day. So what did you experience? What conversations that you have where they were either challenging or they were really uplifting? Were you able to lead with empathy? And if that's an area where you want to improve, start to journal and track that progress over time to see, okay, well, is this an area of strength for you? Is this a place where you want to grow and learn and develop? As I work with my clients, those are things that I help you to work on your power base, what we call it, your area of influence, your community, your network. And that's one of the things you can help to strengthen as you grow from your career from employee to leader. But be very intentional about how mindful you are when it comes to relationships that you build and networks that you have as well. Fourth journal prompt, think about your growth goals. So we all know that we want more. I did an entire video on how you need to do more than want more. You have to know what more is and know how you want to get there. So think about your growth goals. Start to journal them and write them down. And the reason why I keep saying to write it down, there's power in writing things down. It's so powerful to put your things on paper, put your ideas, your thoughts, your aspirations, your ambitions on paper, because it really starts to put it in motion. The goal here is to embrace the mindset of a leader. A leader decides what they want to do and then they go for it. They're in control of their own career and they're not waiting for someone else to make it happen for them. So do that for yourself. If you are serious about making sure you are going forward in your career, take the control back. Take the control into your own hands and write your goals down so you know how you're going to track them. This fifth journal prompt is probably one of my favorite ones. It's talking about your learning opportunities. So for me, because I came into HR as a student, I was an unpaid HR intern when I was still in college. My entire HR career has been cloaked in education because I started from an education standpoint. It's continued as well. And that's been beneficial to me because if I hadn't approached as a student, there's no telling where I would be. But when I talk about this prompt, you want to make sure you're thinking about your educational opportunities. So what is it that you need to learn? What do you not know? What can you get better with? That's really going back to one of those prompts before, talking about your challenges, but be more intentional and don't shy away from the things that you don't know. The only way you're going to get better in those areas is if you learn how to bridge those gaps and close those gaps. Leaders are lifelong learners. So start to journal and write down, what did you learn today? This doesn't have to be in a book or from a class. You could have learned something through conversation, through experience, but be very, very in tune and very intentional about what you're learning and how you're learning it. You'll be surprised how much growth can happen just by focusing on this one journal prompt. Next journal prompt, to go from employee to leader. Think about the feedback that you either have given or feedback that has been given to you, feedback that you've received. This is a really big piece because as an employee, we're typically on the receiving end of feedback. But as an HR professional, you often have to give feedback, whether you're coaching a manager through a difficult conversation dealing with attendance, or you're coaching an employee through a difficult interaction with another coworker. So you have to figure out, how are you giving feedback? Are you giving great feedback? Are you having conversations with people where they're like, oh, wow, that was a really great question. Or wow, I never thought about it that way. Or wow, you were very insightful. I had a great time talking to you, and all these things. So think about either feedback that you have given to other people in your role, or feedback that was given to you. So again, leaders are lifelong learners. Leaders are always learning from things around them. Start to journal. What are the great things you're seeing? What are the poor things that you're seeing in yourself and in others around you who are leaders and who are trying to take their careers and their organizations, their teams to the next level? Consider how a leader uses feedback to foster growth, not only for themselves, but for the teams that they lead as well. Final journal prompt, think about your human-centered moments. So oftentimes when you're talking about HR, right now AI is a big thing, and people have a fear, it seems, of whether AI is going to take over your job as an HR professional. And I believe that it can, if the only thing that you're doing are the mundane tasks that a computer can do. But things that a computer cannot do are the things that keep the human in human resources. So again, going back to the prior journal prompt about empathetic conversations, but just those personal touches that you can have when you're dealing with people during difficult times, or you're dealing with managers, or you're helping to bridge gaps between difficult conversations. Think about the human-centered work that you do and start to journal about it. Get really intentional about what you're doing. Again, that's going to take you from an employee who's just pushing paper, making widgets, just doing the mundane work, and then being very intentional and very in tune to what you're doing as a leader. You're being careful with your impact. You're being careful with the way that you are approaching different situations, and you're very mindful about the actions that you take. As you're doing these things, reflect on the positive outcomes that will come when you're being more human-centered in your approach, and that's going to do so much more for your career as well. And we've walked through 7 prompts with a lot of information all throughout. So I hope you've been taking notes this entire time. If you have not, go back and watch it again and write these things down. I challenge you, make a commitment to yourself to decide how often do you want to go through these prompts. Are you going to go through it once a week, twice a week, once a month? You know what's going to work best for you and your schedule, but your job will never be any easier than it is right now. So again, like I said prior, if you can't handle your role right now, you've got to find things to optimize what you're doing and optimize your processes to give you time to be more strategic. And being more strategic is not just for your organization. It's also for your own professional development, for your own career growth, for your own career satisfaction as well. So again, I challenge you, commit to a schedule to go through these prompts to make sure you are being very intentional with how you're moving forward in your career. Once you're set on your schedule, drop that down below as a commitment to yourself, and just so that we put it into the universe what you're going to do, how often you're going to do it. I want to make sure that you don't just let this information go in one ear and out the other. You've got to make sure you are in tune with what you're trying to do moving forward. We talked a lot about all the things you need to know as you move from an employee to a leadership role. If you're serious about that, you also need to know if you're on the right track. So watch this very next video to make sure you know everything you need to know. Make sure you're moving on the next track on purpose and with purpose. I'll talk with you on the very next video. Bye.